Tune into ESG Matters with Risk Insights, where we explore ESG with impact.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to ESG Matters with Risk Insights. I'm your host, Anushka Bogdanov. On Friday, the JSE released a SENS announcement about me that was incorrect and misrepresented information. In doing so, they stripped away context, complexity, and compassion. Please allow the process between me and the JSE to unfold respectfully. I can confirm that just minutes before the SENS announcement was made, I received an email from Nadia Jada, sanctioned by Andre Fissert, the Director of Regulations at the JSE. She had attempted to pause the publication without any promises, of course, and acknowledged that the matter was already in the public domain. Had I been given sufficient notice, you can be assured I would have communicated with all of you directly, as well as all other stakeholders. The publication of that announcement without even affording me the opportunity to comment or provide a response was disheartening, besides other issues. The ESGPS AI Platform, which I pioneered for Africa, gives complete transparency into non-financial performance, including governance across every listed company in 9 African stock exchanges. It is built on international best practices. It stands strong amongst the best global ESG rating methodologies and has been built meticulously for Africa's capital markets. The tool has been internationally recognized through multiple awards, international and regional contracts, and the World Economic Forum. The JSE joined the ESG GPS ecosystem in April 2025, and since then, we have collaborated closely with the market data team led by Barbara Arnold and Mark Randall to drive ESG integration for South Africa. Subsequently, team members and I from Risk Insights also participated as task force members for the B20 to support the G20 sustainability agenda. I apologize for the lateness of this podcast, but I'm holding up despite recent events. I remain, as always, an advocate and a voice for ESG in Africa. I want to thank all stakeholders who have sent messages of support. I also acknowledge and hear those who have expressed concern or criticism. You're right. Transparency and ethics are critical when holding public trust. To be clear, ESG GPS was born in 2017, inspired by the environmental and financial devastation of the Deepwater Horizon crisis. Even as I left several board roles for personal health reasons, I could not turn away from what I witnessed, a system still too anchored in outdated agency theory. That's why I stayed the course to build something Africa could call its own. The world has moved on. Globalization, the rise of the stakeholder economy, and the demands for accountability means that the old model no longer serves us. Africa must not be left behind, at least not on my watch. This week's episode reflects both pride and concern. Pride in Africa's bold ESG leadership as we prepare for the inaugural Pan-Africa ESG Awards, and the deep concern for the catastrophic climate disasters and humanitarian crises that are unfolding across the world through war and conflict. We will also unpack how global conflicts are worsening environmental risk and highlight how Africa's regulatory landscape is catching up and in some ways leading the way in ESG standards. Africa is not passively participating in the ESG conversation. We are shaping it. The climate crisis is now a humanitarian crisis. But while Africa rises, the world faces a harsh and undeniable truth. Climate disasters are escalating faster, deadlier, and more destructive than ever. And these are not just environmental events, they are human tragedies. In Texas, the historical floods have had a devastating effect. The death toll has climbed to over 100 people, including 28 children from a summer camp. The financial cost is staggering, but the human loss is immeasurable. In Australia, flash floods had forced thousands from their homes, entire towns submerged, families displaced, schools and hospitals were overwhelmed. Across Europe, unprecedented heat waves are claiming lives. Temperatures above 45 degrees Celsius have been recorded in Spain, Italy, and Greece. Wildfires rage across once thriving agricultural regions. The heat is killing not just crops, but people, the elderly, the poor, and those without shelter. These are not just isolated events. These are predictable outcomes of delayed climate action. While Africa contributes less than 4% of global emissions, we suffer disproportionately from drought, flooding, food insecurity, fragile infrastructure, and disrupted development. The climate crisis is now a humanitarian crisis. The time for complacency has long passed. As if the climate volatility weren't enough, the planet also faces the compounded risks of conflict and environmental collapse. From the war in Ukraine to the crisis in Gaza to the growing unrest across parts of Africa and the conflict in Cambodia, conflict brings devastation beyond the battlefield. War destroys ecosystems. It poisons rivers, it demolishes infrastructure, it contaminates soil, and it accelerates displacement. But there is a deeper cost, a moral cost. While trillions are spent on warfare, millions of African children lack access to clean water, electricity, education, or healthcare. The leadership vacuum we face today is not just political, it's an environmental, humanitarian, and moral one. We need leaders who prioritize peace, people, and the planet, not political games or power struggles. Amid all of this, Africa offers a rare source of hope and action. 5 African countries are now aligning for the IFRS S1 and S2 sustainability disclosure standards. These are Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, Tanzania, Zambia, as well as South Africa is reinforcing its leadership through the JSE guidance and voluntary alignment. So why does this matter? Because credible, comparable disclosures inspire trust. They integrate African markets into the global capital flows. They ensure transparency, resilience, and competitiveness. We are also seeing the implementation of the new GRI Universal and Omnibus standards, signaling higher expectations across ESG reporting. Yet we must be honest about the persistent obstacles slowing down ESG adoption in Africa. Many issuers still lack foundational ESG knowledge. ESG is seen as compliance, not as a strategic opportunity for climate finance, innovation, and long-term value creation. The space is overcrowded with consultants, many of whom bring more confusion than clarity and operate with no shared standards or definitions. ESG reporting is siloed, especially when companies operate across multiple jurisdictions, but they fail to disclose both group level and local performance. This weakens public accountability and undermines national climate targets. And yet, the biggest risk may not be the knowledge gap, it's the arrogance of gatekeepers. We continue to see ESG reports blocked or filtered by individuals who hold the power but lack the expertise to interpret ESG risks and opportunities. So, what's the result? Boards are kept in the dark and companies fall behind. Most damaging of all is data is not valued as a strategic asset unless it's provided by international companies. This undermines homegrown ESG innovation and blocks Africa's own narrative from taking root. Thank you for joining me on ESG Matters with Risk Insights. I encourage you to submit nominations for the inaugural Pan-Africa ESG Awards, which will open in the first week of August. Please share this podcast, support those that are building credible, just, and sustainable Africa. The time is now. I'm Anushka Bogdanov. Thank you for listening in. Ciao for now.